Are you ready? It is time for KMB Talk. Thank you for joining another episode of KMB Talk. I am your host, Carey Michael Bennett. Opportunity zones. You might have heard that term out there in the professional realm. Maybe you haven't. Well, today we are going to get into exactly what is an opportunity zone, how did they come to be, and where are they out in this landscape, and what are the opportunities? I mean, hopefully an opportunity zone has an opportunity for us, and I'm pretty confident that they do. So I'm very excited today. We have someone on the line who is, I'm going to qualify them as an expert, and I think many others would qualify them as an expert as well. Regional Director of the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone for Clallam Economic Development Corporation, Julie Knott's on the phone with us. Julie, how are you?
I'm great, Carey. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on. I know you had some travel that we scheduled, and you said, I've got to take some time away to do some traveling, and then let's do the show. And here we are. And before the call, you telling me that you're driving sailboats or sailing sailboats by yourself at the helm across the open wide sea for 7 days. I'm jealous.
Well, thanks. I'm back and I'm safe, and that's all that matters right now.
We might need to schedule a second show and just talk about sailing. There's so much. Of course, on the Olympic Peninsula, there's tremendous sailing opportunities anyway, specifically the Port Townsend to Alaska, race to Alaska. But as an amateur sailor who has actually wrecked other people's sailboats, I'm wanting to go stage introductions and say, hey, can I go out with you? But at this point, I can't afford to pay for any more damages. So if you know someone that's got a boat that's a little,
I think we should keep you watching YouTube.
Okay. Just keep me. That is okay. That is okay. Well, Julie, look, thank you for your time. Let's start at Opportunity Zone 101. What in the heck is an opportunity zone?
Okay. An opportunity zone was established by Congress in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. But in reality, opportunity zones was an original idea in around 2007. And the goal is to spur private sector investments to low-income communities. And by private sector investments, we mean capital gains. And so right now, over the course of the last year, opportunity zones have been selected by our governors across the United States. Our governor, Jay Inslee, we actually were allowed to propose our own opportunity zones in Washington State.
Okay.
And so we had a little bit of a different approach than most other communities and states did across the nation.
Okay.
But basically, long story short, opportunity zones provides a tax incentive for investors to reinvest unrealized capital gains. And if they hold their investments for 10 years, they have an elimination of taxes on the gains from their investments. And so that is basically what it is. It's keeping money from being taxed and investing into, in our case, rural opportunity zone communities.
Okay, so let's recap very quickly. This is new, 2017. And if I understand you correctly, again, we're talking on an Opportunity 101 level here. An area of a state is designated as an opportunity zone. And I'm out in the world. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I have transactions to where I am going to have capital gains, and therefore I'm paying taxes on capital gains. What you were telling me is that that's my traditional option. Well, there's more options, but traditionally that's my option, is that now I can take those capital gains and invest them into an opportunity zone. And if I leave those investments in place for a 10-year basis, the taxes are null.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
And then, what qualifies as an opportunity zone is a little bit sad. It's you have to have a poverty rate of 20% or higher, and your median household income less than 80% of the area median. And in Washington State, in the corner of Washington State, we have 14 designated opportunity zones. So there's a lot of opportunity for rural investment, but it's also a sad state of our economy out here.
Wow. Okay. So in Washington, let's just talk about Washington State alone. How many opportunity zones are within Washington State?
We have 139. And so the
Okay.
governor was allowed to select 25% of our opportunity zones.
Okay.
And we went about this process a lot differently than other opportunity zones in Washington State and across the nation. I say when we applied for the governor's designation for opportunity zones, we got together with all of our tribes, our cities, our counties, and our ports, and worked together on our local priorities so that our governor would be very clear on our priorities, and he could select what we wanted our investments to draw.
Okay.
And yeah, so we made it very easy on our governor.
So now, as far as you're being a regional director of the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone, which if you're viewing, I'll put up the URLs in a little for you to, see. But if you're listening on a podcast, visit emeraldfunds.org, emeraldfunds.org. So west of Seattle, even if you don't live in Washington State, let's assume that people know where Seattle is. Mm-hmm. West of Seattle, you cross the Puget Sound, and now you're on the Olympic Peninsula.
Right.
And the Olympic National Park is there. There are several, Indian tribes in place. There's a lot happening. Port Angeles, right, where the mountains meet the sea. There's a lot happening from an environmental perspective. A lot of varied interest, and this is where I live. Okay, so what I understand is you're managing the opportunity zone for the area that I reside in. In order for this to qualify, we had to meet thresholds on poverty levels. And to me, that blows my mind because the proximity to Seattle, the proximity to these major metros, is this common with opportunity zones for them to be so close to those major urban areas?
Well, they certainly can be. A lot of the more urban opportunity zones can get a fair amount of attention, and it's a little more difficult for rural opportunity zones to get that same kind of investor attention.
Okay.
And if you put it in perspective a little bit, on the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State, there's one highway in, one road in, and one road out.
Right.
Our coast, there's no rural broadband in a lot of areas, so a lot of our students and tribal people and leaders, they can't communicate by the internet on a regular basis.
Right.
Phone and cell service is limited as well.
Right.
So, and we've also been a distressed community for a long time when our forestry industry collapsed. And then again, like you talked about the economy in 2008, 2009, a lot of us haven't recovered from that economic crisis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So the objective is for a Julie Knott to raise a flag and say, okay, potential investors, you are now aware of opportunity zones, but there's opportunity zones in, I'm making this up, Alabama,
right,
Texas, Louisiana, wherever. If I understand this correctly, you're actually competing with those other opportunity zones for those investment dollars.
I would like to say I am not competing for those dollars. I think in our goal and our whole leadership model is collaboration and learning from each other, and really lifting each other up as rural communities go. So yeah, I would say this is not a competition, although sometimes, it feels like it a little bit when, the big dogs are talking out there, in the United States. But for us, rural opportunity zones, we're doing everything we can to help those Alabamas and the states of Alaska and all the other rural areas that we can lift from this.
I understand. What a great strategy. So collaboration is really going to be the differentiator here.
Yeah, and opportunity zones allowed a very unique new set of partnerships and leaders and conversations to come to the forefront. And that's because tribal leaders, economic development leaders have a voice in this as well. And so especially for the corner of Washington State, where we have so many adjacent tribes and cities and counties and ports, our conversation has taken a whole new level on partnerships.
Okay,
It,
so let's wow. I the sentence you just said, I don't want to get too far past that because that stop. Say that one more time. How many within your region? How many tribes?
well, on the corner of Washington State, we have 6 tribes, and we started out with 5, and now we have one more in our partnership. And then we've also aligned ourselves with tribes in Central Washington as well. So, and that's been spreading and it's been working. And we call ourselves the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone,
Okay.
and that is 6 tribes, 4 cities, 2 counties, and 2 port authorities.
Wow. That okay, so that's incredible. That has to, at least to me, be. Let's go back to Alabama. It has to be different, and maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm assuming and I'm incorrect. And if I am, that's okay. But it seems to me that you are leading an initiative that has a lot of varied interest in it. And in this particular case, we're not talking, political desires or the wishes of certain community members. We're talking sovereign nations. We're talking Indian tribes.
Yes, exactly.
And not only that, but you're talking to ports. That's a big deal, right? I mean,
Yep.
oh my goodness gracious. So your hands are full. This is it sounds very innovative.
From what I can hear across the nation, it is definitely innovative. We're getting a lot of attention for sure.
Wow. That is fantastic. Okay, I interrupted you, and I didn't mean to, but I'm glad I did because I wanted the clarification. So, back to the dialogue of the Emerald Coast and what it entails. So, and right in the middle of this is the Olympic National Park, federal park.
Hmm. We have nowhere to go but up with this one.
Wow, this is awesome. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Oh
the
my.
diversity of the projects, because of the diversity of the stakeholders, is very significant. The projects that are coming up are all over the place. And we've had investors come out and actually, so they could see for themselves what a rural opportunity zone project looked like. And they were very surprised by what we have going on out here.
Wow. So what volume of dollars are you looking for? Just give me and give us, me and the listeners and the viewers an idea of what type of dollars are we discussing here.
Boy, I could only guess. We actually don't even have impact reporting requirements yet. There's going to be a bill to introduce that by the IRS out soon, but I can only guess. I can tell you the types of projects that are coming through my office and that are looking for investments.
Okay.
But I can, but it's in the millions and millions of dollars.
Well,
Millions.
that's what I would think. I mean, this is a
Yeah.
massive region, and you start talking housing or some of the other things that you're wanting to accomplish. You're getting into some very, very big numbers in order to pull this off.
Yeah, and some of the projects, are definitely impact types of projects, and some projects are definitely looking for a specific return on the investment.
Okay.
But what we have very much learned is to test our assumptions. And before any caution or doubt is cast, we make sure that we are darn sure that our assumptions either are correct or need to be changed. And we've learned a lot from assumptions that others have made as far as what is investable. And we have chosen to get professionals to help us out to really, really look at this from a legal, accounting, and investment perspective.
Wow. Now, you said that you made a comment about impact versus return. Can you describe? So I'm an investor and I come to you and guess what? I had a great year last year. I sold all my sailboats, massive capital gains that I want to invest. And I would like and I'm just going to use an easy number, I would like a 10% return on my investment. So that would be the type of investor who identifies what type of return they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy to understand. Describe to me the impact investor.
Yeah, I would say as far as the type of investor that we are looking to draw, we are definitely looking at impact investors because you can make a very, very big impact in a rural opportunity zone. Just even a small investment that brings 30 jobs can change a community.
Right.
So Yeah, so the types of investments that we're looking for as far as impact investors, a lot of that, I would say would be tribal resiliency projects,
Okay.
you know, energy independence, a higher ground project, moving from climate change, and you have to move all of your schools, your tribal government buildings, things like that. I know that there's a tribe on the coast that's looking for an ice manufacturing facility. It's an extreme need they have to keep their fisheries cool. And there's
Wow.
also, and again, tribes are looking at marina improvements, and investors are also looking to invest not only in tribal, non-tribal partnerships, but even investments that aren't on reservation land, because a lot of tribes want to build a gas station. Investors that are looking to support that too.
Okay, you just cut out a little bit. I think the last thing I heard was gas station.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of tribes. Can you hear me now?
Perfectly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, a lot of tribes, they are looking for investing not just on the reservation land, but in adjacent cities too.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can that's where you're going to get a lot of your impact. And then we also have other projects like our Performing Arts and Conference Center on the waterfront, and there's lots of historic renovation projects. Out here on the Olympic Peninsula, a lot of our old buildings have been maintained but not kept up. And like in downtown Seattle, a lot of them were torn down or rebuilt. But here, there's just a lot of historic renovation opportunities and housing. Oh my gosh, housing. There's, in every city, I've talked to a developer who's interested in putting a housing project here.
Okay, I want to dive into the housing, but I think that we're having a problem with our connection. Let's do this real quickly. Let's pause the broadcast, hang up, and then reconnect, and then continue
Okay.
this dialogue.
Okay, great.
Okay, hang tight.
Okay, bye.
Okay, we're back. Julie's back with us. Apologize for the slight delay here, but what you were just talking about with the housing,
Hmm.
where were you on that? Where is that conversation going?
Well, in every city and town that I've been working with, I've been talking to housing developers and also property owners that have potential housing projects.
Okay.
And I've also been working with cities and counties to knock down any barriers to a housing project, whether it's a permitting issue or, maybe we need planned unit developments and we didn't have that before, that kind of conversation. And,
Okay.
and I can tell you, though, that I haven't seen any specific opportunity zone housing projects in the permit section for the cities and the counties yet.
Okay.
But that doesn't really tell me anything because the IRS rules aren't finalized yet, and there's a few other details that have just been delayed.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So and this ties into an interest of mine, but I'm curious. So sustainable housing, right? Or
Mhm.
innovative housing. I am seeing a lot of things happen out in the landscape with tiny homes or self-sufficient homes, growing roofs, where you have your garden on your roof, all sorts of different things. Are the housing investments going to be primarily for traditional type housing, or is there a mechanism that will allow some creativity?
Well, the rules do allow for a light touch in the regulatory framework, and that was the goal, was to keep it open.
Okay.
And I haven't seen as much, well, for instance, there's tiny homes for veterans. That's a project that they just purchased the land for here. That's an opportunity zone project.
Okay.
There's one of the tribes is converting a hotel into housing.
Okay.
And an interesting thing, one of the cities here has a park, a small park piece of land, and they're looking to do a demo project with that municipal land, maybe a long-term lease if you build affordable housing there, or maybe the land is donated. And so there's definitely some creative housing work going on out there.
That's outstanding.
Hmm.
It really is. So that it makes me happy to know that's being included.
Well,
What?
and we have a 1% housing opening, if that, the vacancy here on the Olympic Peninsula, very, very little housing of all prices. So one of the first projects that was announced here was a housing project right in downtown Port Angeles, 68 to 70 some units of, they're considering either an apartment or a condominium.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really neat. What other type of investments are we looking for?
Oh,
Or
well,
I'm sorry, what other type of investments are we wanting to pursue?
let's see. There's a lot of small business that want to get going, and there's a full service fiber mill that for alpaca fibers and sheep, and they're looking to build a manufacturing business out here. There's a company that wants to convert slash recycled forest products into wood bricks for heating locally.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, hotel conversions. And then, there's a historic renovation to build a boutique hotel in one of our beautiful port cities. A 98-year-old mill is interested in restarting. And like I said, it goes all over the gamut. I mean, and the more we get out there in the community, the more that we see that we just have to keep digging to find more. And that's what my job is right now, is to dig hard to find those projects.
Wow. Are you the gatekeeper then?
I wouldn't say I'm the gatekeeper. I hope I'm not the
Good.
gatekeeper. I hope I'm the gate facilitator. Yeah,
I was setting you up to zing you on that one.
I try very hard not to put my bias or to vet anything until I've had a professional look at it with more experience than I have, for sure.
That is
That would
awesome.
be a definite disservice to our taxpayers and our supporters.
I agree. Okay, let me ask you this, and pardon me if this is an ignorant question. The investors, are they individuals or are corporations allowed to invest?
Well, here's what you do. You have your capital gains, and you take those capital gains and you invest it into a qualified opportunity fund. And so a lot of the funds, what I've noticed is they're project driven. So like there might be a fund specifically for a waterfront hotel, for instance.
Okay.
And then though there's community funds that are being built as well. And so how that all plays out and how you decide how long you hold your investment in that fund, that's some of the complications that they're still working on right now.
Okay. So again, I had a great year last year and I'm flush with cash. And in some cases, I get to do an investment and almost a direct investment. In other words, I know that my dollars are going to this particular project. And in other cases, I'm putting my dollar, well, in both cases, I'm putting my dollars into a fund. One fund might be, specific for a project like what you mentioned, and the other fund might be more general. I'm wanting to invest in this region, but I'm leaving it up to the fund managers to decide where those dollars go. Is that correct?
Yep, that's the way I'm reading it too.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. Incredibly exciting. Incredibly exciting. Brand new. So what's interesting to me is, and I'm not kidding, yesterday, no, that's right. It was yesterday. Yesterday was Monday. Yesterday, I had a conversation with a gentleman, and I mentioned the word opportunity zone, and they looked at me and said, "What are you talking about?" I'm still getting that.
Mm-hmm.
I am. It's so new that there are some very serious business leaders that are only just now becoming aware of it. I mean, and I'm bringing that up not as a slight towards them, but to really demonstrate to everyone how new of an opportunity zones are.
Yes, and we are very aggressive about our pursuit of opportunity zones here in the corner of Washington State. A lot of groups, they're waiting until the rules are out and ready, and we've chosen to move forward and keep the momentum going despite the uncertainty that's in the future.
Wow.
Yeah, and we've made a commitment to that regionally too, and then that's something that's unique for us. And a thing that we have to our advantage is now we have 15 opportunity zones here, and some local governments are only representing one or two or three. So we're becoming a powerful force, and we know that across the nation we're part of the conversation now. We're coming up on webinars, and we can hear the talk about the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone project, and that gives us a lot of encouragement, but it also helps with our partners when we work with them and boost them up as well.
That's right. That's right. No, you said it. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to opportunity, no pun intended, right?
Right.
I had the I had the opportunity to interview a team manager for a major supercross motocross team. And now, just to be honest, I'm a tremendous fan, so I was trying not to be fanboy and ask questions about the sport. What about the tires and the tire pressure and all this kind of stuff. And thankfully I didn't, and the conversation stayed business. But what really impressed me was we were talking about, excuse me, title sponsors. And I think that the term title sponsor is a familiar term. Even if you don't know exactly what that means, you pretty much go, oh, there's that big truck going down the road. That's the Julie Knott race team. Julie's more than likely the title sponsor. And what he was expressing is that even the terminology title sponsor is starting to kind of go by the wayside. And it's not that they don't seek title sponsors. They need those sponsorship dollars to conduct their operation. But now these sponsors are coming in not necessarily because they're wanting to buy the advertising space, but because they're looking at the other partnerships. And specifically, they had a partnership with Toyota and major corporation, and another group came in and they created accessories for Toyota trucks, accessories, whatever those might be, the grills, the bumpers, the step railing. They wanted to come in because they ultimately wanted to try to get a partnership with Toyota. Subsequently, it worked. And what he was describing is, he's like, I've been doing this for so long. I've been in this industry for so long. And what we're seeing now are the better teams are actually facilitating massive partnerships. And I'm hearing some similarities. I think it's very interesting, very, very interesting that your perspective is one of, how can I help you?
Yeah. Yeah, and we definitely know we are involved in shaping the future of rural opportunity zones, and we're taking that very seriously out here. And we're not alone in this, and we have a lot of reinforcements. The minute that we stepped up in this collaborative proposal, the way that we did it, it wasn't welcomed at first. And bless Washington State Department of Commerce, because at first, this was an unusual approach, but they, not very long after, became very supportive of us. And we also have had the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, the National Development Council, and Impact Washington. These are all big groups that have come out and used their influence to support us.
Wow.
And then took what they learned from us, and we're spreading that across Washington State and the nation. That's the goal here.
This is just, it's incredibly exciting.
Yeah, and another really cool thing is there's a group called the North Star Opportunity Zone, and that's in the central part of Washington State, and that's led by the Colville Confederated Tribe, and they're working at the same angle that we are as far as a local community approach to collaboration to bring investments to rural communities. And so that drive and that collaboration is really taking off here, and we're willing to share, and we want to share, because one of the things about opportunity zones that's a little difficult is when you're in a rural community, responding to that tax incentive is very difficult. You have to have the capacity to do it. You have to have someone like me, or a funding for someone who can do that work, and most rural opportunity zones don't have that.
Are you able to share your expertise outside of your region? Is there a way for these rural opportunity zones that don't have the capacity resources to pull together and use a shared HR service, and I'm making that up, obviously, a shared legal, to close those gaps, to make sure that they're not left behind because they're not properly set up right now?
Yeah, well, we are definitely talking to each other too. I was just on a webinar last week with Sitka, Alaska. We speak a couple of times a week to different groups, 200 to 400 people, to share what we know and what we've learned so far. And the interesting thing is, right now there's a timeline for opportunity zones. There's an incentive that you'll miss after December 31st, 2019.
Okay.
But then we will have a second wave to get ourselves aligned for this. So community members who don't necessarily know about the opportunity right now, we're going to come back at you and do this again and help more community members understand what that opportunity is. So we're not done yet.
Wow. Well, I hope that this helps in some way get the word out. I believe it will. And again, back to the conversation of just yesterday, when we published the show, on Thursday, I'm texting it to them and saying, hey, here's where you learn about opportunity zones, right? It's a great resource. So real quick, you are on LinkedIn as Julie Knott, Knott.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone, I'm going to encourage any viewer or listener to reach out to you directly with any questions, or if they have any way to help or input. I'm going to also direct people to emeraldfunds.org.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're actually watching the broadcast, you'll see some Twitter and some Facebook social URLs that you can also get in touch with Julie Knott at. Wow, Julie. So I'm hearing collaboration, I'm hearing innovation, I'm hearing partnerships, but really, I'm hearing excitement. I mean, this is exciting.
I am really excited. It's probably one of the best opportunities I've had in my life to make a difference in our communities, and it's really worth the stress of uncertainty. Working together like this and just seeing the impact of collaboration on such a unique level. I think it's supercharged a lot of us for economic development. Economic development isn't always super fun. But
No. Sometimes yeah, you're right. Sometimes it is not fun at all, and we're all motivated for different reasons. But for me personally, when I lay down at night, I always do I feel fulfilled, right? Was I challenged? And I kind of cycle through these type of thought processes. Not necessarily, what does the account look like in the bank and all of those type things. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But this is exciting to me. I mean, I bet you're going to sleep tired,
it takes a lot of travel.
excited, fulfilled.
The best part about this is presenting economic development not necessarily with a spreadsheet but with your heart.
Ooh.
And that's been one of the best parts about this project, I think, for all of us, is it's really doing something for rural distressed communities.
Talk about a meaningful impact, something that is tangible, that you can see, that in 5 years from now you can drive down X road and see the results of yours and so many others' efforts. And even from an investor point of view, there's a feel-good aspect to it. This just feels good. It really feels good.
Yes, exactly. So my goal is to get those investors to invest in the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone and other opportunity zones for rural distressed communities.
Wow.
So we're looking for you out there, investors.
Well, hopefully this call brings some attention to some of those investors for you. And I will definitely, as I continue to go out and talk to people, I will definitely drive attention not only to opportunity zones, but the Emerald opportunity zones, because I'm a resident here, and let's do it, right?
Right.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Carrie. That's really great. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Hey, partnership. I'm in the spirit. I need a T-shirt or I need a team jacket.
I think we do too. I was looking at buffs. I think we need buff.
Something.
You know what a buff is? Yeah.
Something. We just need something, and I've got 3 Labradors and I walk them twice a day. Get me a jacket to put on them. Well, Julie, listen, I really appreciate your time so much. And I hope that we have an opportunity to stay in touch. I mean, it's not every day I get to speak to someone that I get. Let's say that we're local to one another and we're local to the same region, right?
Mm-hmm,
And that's not every day that I get to do that. So I hope that at some point we get to meet in person and share a cup of coffee and, collaborate and strategize over, how can we help? And to your point, how can we help not only the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone, but how can we help rural opportunity zones across the United States?
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you so much for your support. We really need it out here.
Oh, you've got it. You've got it. I'm a cheerleader. I need pom-pom something. I need something, which that would be a pretty interesting show.
I have a visual on that.
Yeah. I'm not very coordinated when it comes to dancing. So maybe it would go viral, right? People would laugh at me, and that's fine. I'll throw myself under the bus if it helps the cause. Julie, thank you so much for your time. And I really hope that you have a wonderful day, and I'm glad that your sailing adventure concluded safely.
Hey, thank you so much, Carrie. Enjoy the sunshine today, too.
I will. Viewers, listeners, that was Julie Knott, Regional Director of the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone at the Clallam Economic Development Corporation. What an exciting phone call. I hope you enjoy the show. Until next time. Thank you for listening to KMB Talk. You don't have to click home, but you can't stay here.